And one of those reasons is financial. And my encouragement to you all is to look at the data that you all have on your campuses and really try to figure out what is blocking students from making it into the door, making it through key entry points. Because while we can look at national data that looks at the United States as a whole, it would be really good to know about what's happening in your specific context and raise those stories and elevate them to a larger audience to help in terms of some of this decision making. But one of the things that we have found by looking at national data is that students aren't coming into college, and some of them aren't finishing college because of financial reasons. That's a huge issue. And the more we think about what's happening in the broader economy and we take those lessons and we apply it to the students that we see every day, we have to remain focused on the fact that financial aid remains a very real issue for students. But what the studies have shown is that for students at community colleges, not only is financial aid an issue, many of them aren't even applying for financial aid. About 1/3 of students at our nation's community colleges have not even applied for financial aid. And I think that's something that we have to keep in the forefront of our mind, because if these students are eligible, and the 1/3, they are eligible, if they are eligible and they have not applied for aid and for which they would qualify, that would actually help to make the transition through school easier, then we have to look at our administrative processes on the campuses to figure out what's going on and how can we improve upon that. When we dig deeper in the data to find out from students exactly why they have not applied for aid, we come up with 3 answers constantly. The first one is they did not think they would need the money. The second is they did not know that they would qualify. And the third is they didn't know that there was money that would really be available for students like them. And I think all 3 of those are troubling, but the third one is the most troubling to me. And I just want to tell you a brief conversation I had with a young woman in my church. Her name is Anita, and Anita was enrolled in a community college in the Washington, D.C. area. I shouldn't say she was enrolled, she had applied and gotten accepted to a community college in the Washington, D.C. area. Simultaneously to applying to that community college, she also applied to a for-profit institution. She decided to enroll in the for-profit institution. And I asked her, why did you make that decision? And she said to me, they told me they had money that would help me pay for college. And that's where she made her decision. She then went to the for-profit institution. She now has student loans to repay that probably are comparable to the student loans that I had to pay back for 2 degrees, not just 1. So not that, her degree isn't worth it, and she certainly feels that she got a good education, but if she had known that there was money at this other institution for her, then she may have made a different choice. She might not have, but at least when you have all the information, you can be a better and more informed decision maker. So I think we have to keep those things in mind moving forward. And my advice simply to you all as trustees are 3 things. One, or actually 4. One is make sure as we stay focused on the issue of completion that we don't abandon the notion of access. Access and success are complementary goals, and they need to be pursued simultaneously. Let's also do a better job of making sure that we have good data so that we can track our outcomes and understand why students make certain choices and have certain type of behavior patterns. And then we can then create programs and efforts to help make sure that they're actually moving through our system well. Third, I also want to make sure that you look at the whole issue of financial aid and make sure that students know that at a minimum, financial aid is available at your institution for those who qualify. And to find out if you qualify, you simply have to apply. And the last point is still related to the whole notion of financial aid, and it deals with some of the broader conversations that we're having right now on a national level around the budget. Right now, Congress is in a continuing resolution until November 18th around the 2012 budget. And one of the things that is a point of contention in those conversations deals with Pell Grant funding. And the Pell Grants are likely to be cut unless people are vocal and express their dissatisfaction about what's happening. And if the cuts go forward, the cuts would likely reduce the maximum award for many, many students, and about 500,000 next year alone who are qualified today won't even be qualified next year. The students who these changes impact the most are the students at your institutions. So this is a broad national issue, but I want to encourage you to get involved with the efforts of ACCT and helping to lobby against these drastic changes that would really limit access, limit opportunity, and have a negative impact on completion for many of the students at your campus today. Thanks.
Thank you. I thank you for the opportunity to spend some time with you. I thank Narcisa Polonio and Noah Brown. One of the things that is front and center whenever I have the opportunity to speak to an audience of influencers like this one is the proposition to make common cause for student success. Excelencia in Education is a newer organization, particularly when compared to the longevity of all of your institutions in this organization. We got started in 2004. You heard from the introduction that I've been at this a long time. We were talking at the lunch table about when I came to DC. I came to DC thinking I was going to be there for a 2-year stay and work for an educational association. And in the time I've been in Washington, I had the privilege of serving in the Clinton administration and directing a White House initiative. And during that time span, I lived through the release of the 2000 census. I come from Texas. I found it fascinating, funny, strange, that everyone seemed to discover the Latino community in the release of the 2000 census. That didn't just happen in 2000. We saw it happen again in 2010. But in 2000, having just completed a responsibility that looked at the impact of our people, our human capital, and the proposition that education and training is a means for all of us to achieve our personal goals and for us as a society to have the kind of human capital necessary, coming off an experience like that and looking at the wonderful and strong and rich higher educational system that exists in this country and the array of professional organizations that support this enterprise, we felt, the co-founder of Excelencia and myself, that what didn't exist was a source of information for people like you who need to make assessments about your own environments, your own communities, who need to figure out priorities and to decide what to invest in and to what end. And so, with great humility, we decided that we would take this experience of 3 years in federal service, and each of us, one in the case of working in an institution of higher education, my colleague in working in nonprofits, and combine forces to be a source of information